In this video, you're going to examine the properties and uses of hydrogen. Hydrogen is a colourless, odourless gas at room temperature and is the first element in the periodic table. As an element, it is a diatomic gas with a molecular weight of 2, making it the least dense of all gases. This low density made it a natural choice for one of its first practical uses, filling airships, but this future ended when the Hindenburg airship caught fire on the 6th of May 1937. Hydrogen is easily the most abundant element in the universe. It is found in the Sun and most other stars, and the giant planets like Jupiter are composed mostly of hydrogen. On Earth it is found in water, fossil fuels and living things, but very little as the element on its own. In the chemical industry it is used to make ammonia for agricultural fertilizer, the Haber process, and to make cyclohexane and methanol, which are needed to make plastics and pharmaceuticals. It is also used to remove sulfur from fuels during the oil refining process, when it forms the bad egg-smelling gas hydrogen sulfide, H2S. Large quantities of hydrogen are used to hydrogenate vegetable oils to form fats, for example, to make margarine. The H in the pH scale denotes hydrogen. It represents the concentration of hydrogen ions in water. When the pH is lower than 7, the solution is acidic, and it is the hydrogen, or more strictly the hydroxonium ion, that makes the acids reactive. Thus, metals above hydrogen in the reactivity series normally react with acids to form hydrogen, like zinc with hydrochloric acid. However, if the metals form insoluble salt, little reaction will occur, for example lead in sulfuric or hydrochloric acids. Aluminium metal, although well above hydrogen, is covered with a tight layer of oxide which protects it from acid corrosion. Unreactive metals below hydrogen do not displace hydrogen in acids. The most reactive metals will react with water itself, sodium for example. You can test for hydrogen by exposing it to a flame. It ignites with a squeaky pop, and you can see condensation in the tube as water is formed. Although hydrogen is an essential element for life, it doesn't play a particularly active role. It remains bonded to carbon and oxygen atoms, whilst the chemistry of life takes place at the more active sites involving, for example, oxygen, nitrogen and phosphorus. When fossil fuels form, these more reactive elements are removed during the decay process, leaving the hydrocarbon skeleton behind as crude oil and natural gas. If we compare coal, oil and natural gas and hydrogen as fuels, you can see that when they combine with oxygen, coal and crude oil produce the most carbon dioxide. So using natural gas in place of oil and coal does help reduce carbon dioxide emissions. Hydrogen, which only forms water when it burns, could be the clean fuel for the future. But the hydrogen must be generated from water using replenishable energy. Hydrogen has 3 isotopes. Normal hydrogen with 1 proton in the nucleus, the very rare deuterium, or heavy hydrogen, with a proton and 1 neutron, with twice the atomic weight of normal hydrogen, and the artificially made radioactive tritium with 3 neutrons. These isotopes are being used by scientists trying to copy the fusion reaction of hydrogen in the stars to get clean nuclear energy. Currently, all nuclear power stations use fission reactions where very large atoms like uranium break apart, producing lots of radioactive waste. So there you have it. Hydrogen, a fuel for the future, and the element that helps carbon form the backbone of life itself. In this video, you will learn about how we are trying to design a way to power vehicles of the future on hydrogen, oxygen, and sunlight. Life, as we know it, is fueled by energy from the sun through the process of photosynthesis. This releases oxygen into the atmosphere and forms biomass from the water and carbon dioxide which enters the leaves of plants. When living things need energy, they simply rejoin the oxygen to the biomass, which we will call fuel, to reform carbon dioxide and water. We can mimic this by using electricity to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is released into the atmosphere, but the hydrogen is stored as a fuel for motor vehicles. In order to obtain energy for the vehicle, we need to rejoin the hydrogen with oxygen, and this is done most efficiently in what is called a fuel cell. In an ordinary electric cell, a metal, say zinc, ionizes at one electrode, the anode, giving off 2 electrons. The electrons are pushed round the circuit, carrying energy to, for example, a motor, and are absorbed by metal ions of a less reactive metal, say copper. The circuit is completed by the movement of metal ions through the solution. In a fuel cell, the reactants are gases instead of metals. Hydrogen gives its electrons. The electrons flow round, driving the motor, and arrive at the cathode, where they are recombined with hydrogen in the presence of the reactive gas oxygen, which provides the driving energy to form water again. The electrodes can be made of porous carbon coated with a catalyst such as platinum or nickel. The advantage of combining a fuel and oxygen in a cell is that you can, in theory, convert most of the chemical energy to electricity, whereas burning them, as happens in the internal combustion engine of a car, has a maximum efficiency of about 50%, and in practice only about 25% of the chemical energy does useful work in driving the engine. The rest comes out as waste heat. There are 2 major problems to using hydrogen fuel cells in vehicles. Firstly, where do you get the hydrogen? Currently, most industrial hydrogen is derived from methane, and the carbon is rejected as carbon dioxide, thus adding to the greenhouse effect. The hope is that we can learn to mimic photosynthesis by using sunlight to split water molecules apart, giving us a clean and simple source of hydrogen. Currently, this is achieved by using photovoltaic cells to generate electricity, which then electrolyzes water, forming hydrogen and oxygen. To take the analogy further, the hydrogen is transported to the fuel cell, like biomass passing along a food chain, and the oxygen, which we tend to take for granted, is vented to the atmosphere. The fuel cell then gets its oxygen from the atmosphere, just like in respiration. The energy is stored whilst the hydrogen and oxygen are kept apart. The other problem is how to store and transport the hydrogen gas once you've got it. It's extremely difficult to liquefy and rather dangerous if kept as a gas under pressure, particularly if the vehicle crashes. Research is therefore focusing on hydrides, compounds of elements with hydrogen, which are solid or liquid at room temperature and which give out their hydrogen reversibly and without too much energy input. This allows hydrogen to be pumped in, reacting to form the hydride, and then, on the journey, the hydrogen is given off to be used in the fuel cell to drive the vehicle. For example, ammonia borane, a solid at room temperature with the same structure of ethane, gives up its hydrogen on heating. However, it will probably be more energy efficient to run the cars on batteries, which are charged from green electricity. So to summarize, fuel cells generate electricity from the reaction between a fuel and oxygen. Using them on vehicles means that we need to develop a way of storing hydrogen, which is difficult. So vehicles of the future are more likely to be powered by batteries.
It's 2015. Hollywood prophecy says that we should have flying cars by now, and we don't have flying cars. So how about hydrogen cars? Hey everybody, thanks for watching D-News Today. I'm Trace. Fueling your car with hydrogen is weird. Hydrogen, #1 on the periodic table. It's a powerful combustible element. It blew up the Hindenburg, but it's also part of water and carbohydrates and so many other things in nature. The thing is, hydrogen, it's a lot of things, and it's in a lot of things because it's a super simple element. 1 proton, 1 electron, and it makes up 75% of all the mass in the universe. Yeah, 3/4 of everything is hydrogen. Hydrogen is used for food processing, petroleum refining, and in a variety of industrial applications. The US already creates more than 9 million metric tons of hydrogen annually. So I say again, fueling your car with hydrogen is kind of weird, but it's actually not that weird. You've probably heard of hydrogen fuel cells. They've been around for a while. They were first invented in 1839. They use oxygen and hydrogen to power a car with no moving parts and only emit clean water vapor and heat when burned. And according to many car companies, 2015 might be the year the rubber meets the road for hydrogen as a fuel. When you think of creating hydrogen, you probably think of this. But 95% of America's hydrogen is actually produced using natural gas steam reformation. Factories use high temperatures and pressures to break the natural gas into hydrogen, yay, and carbon oxides, boo. You can also make hydrogen using electrolysis, essentially running electricity through water to split the hydrogen from the oxygen. These are both great things, but something has to generate the electricity for that electrolysis, and in the US that's usually coal power. But if we use wind or solar, then we'd be onto something, right? Once it's made, hydrogen has to then be cooled and stored, which uses more fossil fuel energy, and then you have to ship it to pumping stations using trucks and trains, so you get it. The hydrogen is great, but we kind of suck at making it and moving it around. For now, we're stuck making hydrogen using fossil fuels, which might not be ideal, but that could all change once hydrogen vehicles get on the roads. Why buy a hydrogen car if there's nowhere to fill it up, right? The government and private companies are working to fix that right now. They are partnering to get fuel stations out there. California has a goal in place to have more than 15% of all cars in the state be zero-emission vehicles by 2025. And to hit that goal, they've pledged $200 million to build 100 more fueling stations for hydrogen before 2025. There are already 10, though I don't imagine they're very busy since there aren't too many hydrogen cars around, but that should change soon too. Because in tandem with this momentum, a bunch of auto companies have pledged to release hydrogen fuel cell cars this year. And with 100 more stations coming, filling up those cars with hydrogen fuel should be a cinch. According to research from the University of California, Davis, those 100 stations should be able to make fuel cell vehicles cost competitive with gasoline. It's incredible. We'd like to take a second and give a shout out to Toyota for supporting D-News. They were at CES this week and they released their patents to the public for new fuel cell technology and revealed their fuel cell car to the world. It's called the Mirai. They're hoping these royalty-free patents will spurn a hydrogen fuel-based future and spent the last decade reducing the cost of fuel cell production 95%.
We are connected, you and me. We have always lived together. I know you love me for my beauty, my generosity, my diversity. But as you know, I don't need you. You are not vital to me, but you are endearing, and your enduring spirit makes me want to continue our walk together. By getting to know me, you can protect me. Every day, you face challenges to live smarter with me. I know it can be difficult, but you are beginning to realize that the world must evolve. You are constantly growing and your needs are more urgent. Everything is bigger, faster, and more complex. But you also know my fragility. To thrive together, I need you to adapt quickly, to find new ways to engage, travel, and communicate. You can be patient. I've seen it before. You pass on your knowledge and aspirations from one generation to the next, hoping that your children will follow your path. Believing in your convictions, taking risks, daring. These are big challenges, but experience is your strength. You know how to transform simple ideas into actions, to move forward, step by step. Your strength is in how you deal with differences in each other. Your diversity is your wealth. I believe in you, in your ability to plan and to act for the next generation. Our future is already in your hands. You and I are one.
autonomous. In congested logistic yards all over the world, our zero-emission, hydrogen-powered yard trucks, self-driving software, and robotic systems automate operations for moving freight efficiently, accurately, safely. Working together in a fleet with the right vehicles, moving the right trailers at the right time. A reliable link in a complex chain. Consistency, safety, productivity, all day, every day. Because these trying times demand greater delivery. Goussin, be faster, safer, and cleaner.
Pressure 5.8, 5.9.
That looks good.
Aquin 1, the first private catamaran to run completely off its own solar and hydrogen power. So how does the Yard Zero Emissions energy system work? Meanwhile, your catamaran is its own power plant. The solar panels convert sunlight into electricity, which is stored in one of two ways, long or short term. For direct usage of the solar power, the electricity is stored in batteries. Applications such as the grill or the quiet engines can use this power immediately. Relaxed, you arrive at Saint-Tropez after a comfortable journey. Now at anchor, the solar panels produce extra energy going to the long-term storage. The onboard electrolyzer uses this excess solar energy to split seawater into its components and produce the green fuel hydrogen. This 100% sustainable gas is then compressed into hydrogen tanks. By doing so, the Aquan 1 is able to store 100 times more energy than a modern battery system. This way the yacht runs everything with green hydrogen. From the quiet electric engines to the smart air condition. Anytime energy is needed, fuel cells aboard convert the green hydrogen back into electricity. Using this cutting-edge technology, there is no need for a noisy generator. You can cruise for weeks without refueling, enjoying the sustainable yachting experience on Aquan 1. No noise, no fumes, pure freedom.
Yeah.